Hey guys, this is Mitch with Fine.CGI, and today we're going to talk about how to use the new Godot Android V2 plugin with C# inside of Godot. So we're going to go through the process of setting up the plugin. We're going to go through and talk about how to run a function and things like that. We're going to talk about how to configure your actual plugin specifically for this. Then we're going to go in and talk about how to get data to and from your actual plugin. And then finally, we're going to talk about how to set up signals and get them to interact. So that's what I have in store for you guys today. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is we need to actually go over some prerequisites. So if you don't have the ability to export to Android on Godot, be sure to run through that tutorial. I have it linked in the description below, so that way you guys can go through that, set up your stuff to get ready. The other big thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to have Android Studio installed. Android Studio is the default tool that a lot of people use when they actually do their development. Now, I actually have that linked in the description below as well. And if you go through that Android tutorial, I do install it in that tutorial. Now, once we have that, let's go ahead and actually get going. So first things first, we need to actually build our Android plugin. So let's open up Android Studio and create a new project. Now, if you have ever used Android Studio before and you open it up, it'll look like this. This is a previous project you had open, right? You can click File, New Project, and then go ahead and open up a new project. That will get you this menu here. If you've never opened up Android Studio, if I close this project, I believe it is right here, close, you'll see that it should show something like this. So you could actually come in here and click on New Project. So click on that, no activity, double click on that, and then let's go ahead and name it Android Plugin Tutorial. Now, you can come in here and change your package name to whatever you want. In my case, I'm going to go org Godot engine plugin Android plugin tutorial. Now, that might be required, it might not. It's something that in my testing, it seemed to work when I do it this way, but you might be able to get away with using your own namespace as well. Now I'm going to click finish, and that's going to go ahead and build this plugin. So we're going to let this run, and I will be right back. Now you will see here that we have a app, a Gradle scripts, and a Java section here. These are the major areas that you really care about, and your manifest is kind of important. So to explain the ecosystem of a plugin, and actually really just Android in general, is you have a manifest file. And this manifest file describes what you're building. And then you have your Java section, which is basically all of the code that's associated with that plugin. So if you're going in and you want to build like a Hello World plugin, which is what we're doing, this is where all of that code's going to live. And then over here on the bottom section is all of your Gradle settings. Now, these actually do matter quite a bit. Now you have the project Gradle, and then you have the build Gradle. Project Gradle, we're not going to mess with as much, but the build Gradle, we really will play with because there's a lot of changes in here that we're going to need to make. So let's start with the build Gradle, and let's go from there. So if we take a look at our build Gradle, first things first, you'll see it says ID COM Android application. Let's change that to a library because that's going to tell it to be a library. Simple enough. And now if we come down here, let's check our min SDK. Let's make it 24 because that's what Godot requires. And then let's come down here, change this from 1.8, or in this case, it's Java 8. I don't know why they do 18, but it's fine. We'll change it to version 17 because that's the version that Godot uses. So we'll go ahead and pull those guys in. And then for dependencies, we're going to add in the Godot dependency. The thing is for us to be able to use Godot assets as a feature inside of our plugin, we need to actually have it here. So we'll say implementation, quote, org dot Godot engine dot Godot colon Godot colon 4.2.1.stable. And I spelled stable wrong, stable. And that's going to give us the Godot engine source code. Oh, well, at least the plugin for Godot engine. So we can actually build our plugin. And from here, we can go up to our Android manifest and we can basically make some small adjustments here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this segment here. And I'm going to go bracket application, enter metadata, enter, Android name is equal to org.godot engine.plugin.v2 dot and then the name of our actual class. So what I'm going to do is name it Hello World. And then I'm going to hit enter, and then I'm going to say Android value org.godot engine dot plugin dot android dot android plug-in tutorial dot hello world, like that. Now you're probably wondering, okay, this is like magic here, right? So what is this doing? So what I'm doing is this is a class that I'm going to be creating. This is the location of that class. So you can see here, org Godot engine plugin android plugin tutorial, org Godot engine plugin android plugin tutorial. Now I should probably camel case this just because it makes more sense, though I guess really they didn't, so maybe we shouldn't, but I don't know if I like it. But you can see here that this is equivalent to this. And this is telling Godot where it exists inside the Godot ecosystem, if that makes sense. And what we'll do from here is we'll basically come in here. We'll double check this, make sure that it's happy, which it is. We'll go to our module, double check to make sure that that's correct. So we have our Android namespace, config. I'm just looking to see if there's anything that mentions an application ID, which it does. It is right here. So we're going to want to pull this out. We don't need that. So we'll control S. We'll sync our Gradle. We'll let that sync. And then we'll come in here. We'll right click new Java class and we'll say hello world because that's the class that we're going to be building. Now you'll see that this matches this. This right here, this guy, this package matches exactly with this package here, if that makes sense. So that's how we do this. And then from here, we basically need to extend this class into some kind of Godot plugin. So we'll hit colon extends Godot plugin like that. And you'll see that we have an underline. So let's right click, show context actions, and there is none. So that's not great, but let's see if we can get this to work anyway. So we'll come up here and we'll say import org.godot engine dot Godot dot Godot, and then we'll also import org.godot dot plugin dot actually we should probably do Godot dot plugin dot Godot plugin. See if that works. It still doesn't like it. Class or interface is expected. Oh, I'm dumb. I don't need the colon. There we go. Let's try that. Let's get rid of the colon. Let's do show context actions. And you'll see that it has an implement method. So we'll click implement method and we'll hit OK. And it will implement our plugin name method. Now, what I'll do is I'm going to return quote our class name. Hello world, like that. And now this is where things kind of change quite drastically, actually. If we want to make a function, and in this case, we're going to make a hello world function, what we have to do is we have to make the function. So public void hello, right? The name of the function. Then all we have to do is write our code, right? So what I want to do is I want to make it so it does a modal pop-up, like a little toast message. So I'll say get Godot dot get activity dot run on UI thread new runnable, like that, public override run toast dot make text get Godot dot get activity comma quote hello world exclamation point exclamation point. You can add as many exclamation points as you want. That's not going to affect anything. Dot toast comma toast dot length long. That's how long it's going to show. And then we'll say dot show, and that's going to show that guy right there. And that's all we really need to do. Well, not quite. we need to tell Godot that this exists. Now, back in the day, what we would do is we would have a function that called out all of the classes by name. But now with the new version of Godot, we could just hit @used by Godot, and that's it. And then it's going to get registered just fine. So it saves us a lot of trouble and it makes things a lot easier. Now you'll also notice that we have an underline here. So let's right click, show context, create constructor matching super. So we'll click that and it'll build out that constructor right here, which is another thing that we kind of need to have for this to work properly. So now at this point, if we click the build button, let's see what happens. Hopefully it works. Well, it looks like it's successfully built. So let's go out to where this is located. So we're going to right click and go open in Explorer. And that's going to open up an Explorer window right here. Let's go out to our app build, outputs, AAR, and there is our AAR file. Awesome, right? Now, something that I missed actually with this is we need to actually add the pre-compiling build config fields. So if we head back in here, we can go over to our build.gradle for our app right here, and we can add those in. So what we can do is come up here and do build features, bracket, enter, and then do build config is equal to true. And that's going to allow us to do custom build features. Now, inside of our default config, let's go ahead and add in build config field, bracket, quote, string, comma, quote, capital Godot underscore plugin underscore name, comma, quote, slash quote, and then the name of your plugin. And in our case, it's hello world, like that, slash quote. That's just going to give us a nice build config. Now we're going to do the same thing, but down here on our build types. Now I'm going to do it for both release and for debug. So we'll do two of them here. We're going to do string, and then the first thing is going to be a plugin package name. And then we'll come in here and we'll put quotes around it like we had. And we'll do org.godot engine.plugin. And whatever our actual thing right here is. So Android plugin tutorial, like that. And then here we can do the same thing. Plugin name, and then we'll do hello world. Now we got to get rid of these little parentheses here. And we'll just grab these two guys, and then we'll do the same thing for debug. So we'll say debug, like that, and paste. And that will basically allow us to have all the stuff that we need here. Now, something that I'm going to correct right here is you don't need Java 17. You can use Java 8. However, if you do Java 8, you will not get access to a lot of the Java 17 features. So that's something to keep in mind. I know people have tested it down to Java 8, but that's because Java 17 is running in compatibility mode to get Java 8 to work. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a thing. So just keep that in mind. Now I'm going to click on build, and we're going to build out that plugin real quick. So now at this point, we can actually get started integrating it into Godot. So I'm going to go ahead and open up Godot real quick. We're going to go and hit new. We'll say Android plugin v2 tutorial C#, like that. We'll create a folder and we will create and edit. Now I'm going to have to readjust the screen for you guys real quick. So Godot is going to take a second to load. There we go. And what we'll do is we'll right click, create a new folder, and we'll call it add-ons, like that. Now we need to create our add-on for us to be able to interact with our actual plugin. So let's go into project settings, go over to plugins, and create a new plugin. And the plugin name is going to be Hello World. Now I'm going to copy and paste Hello World for my sub folder. For the author, we'll just say Mitch because that's my name. The language, now this is where things get interesting. You can choose C# if you want, and that's completely up to you. But if you choose C#, then your plugin will not work with anybody other than C#. So I will stand by my suggestion to just do GD script for the plugin, but you can use C# to interact with that plugin. So I highly suggest you use GD script. But since this is a C# tutorial, we'll go ahead and do the C# side. Now, if you want to do the GD script version of the plugin, you can. It's not very different than the C# version. Just go ahead and jump over to my GD script version of the Android v2 plugin, and then just jump to the same time code roughly, and it should be around the same time. So we'll do C#, and then we will say script name is going to be called hello world.cs, and we'll click create. Now that's going to generate a C# solution, and unable to load script. Let's try reloading that script. And it's going to pop up hello world.cs. Now, this is where all of your stuff is going to exist. Now, if you've never used tools inside of Godot for C#, it's relatively simple. You have if tools, which basically just says, if this is a tool, then do this. This is defining it as a tool. This is saying it's inheriting from editor plugin, so we can use it as an editor plugin. And then this is just your regular code. So it's nothing too crazy, but it is something that we just have to keep in mind. Now, when it comes to this, let's go ahead and basically set up our plugin. Now, first things first, we need to declare a class for that Android plugin. So we'll say class Android plugin, and we'll extend our editor export, I believe it's plugin, like that. And now it's going to have some things that it's looking for. You can see that it's missing a bunch of stuff. So first things first, let's go ahead and add in our public partial class Android plugin. And then we need to actually set up our plugin. So first things first is I'm going to set up the name. So string plugin name is equal to hello world, like that. Then we're going to go ahead and set up our platform information, right? So we want to make sure that it supports the proper platform. We don't want to activate it on the wrong platform. So we'll say public override bool underscore supports platform, like that. And basically we can return whether or not it supports that platform. And that's going to be really easy. We'll just return platform is editor export platform Android, like that. And that's all we need to do. And if we really want to be fancy about this, we can actually get rid of this and hit equal pointer and then just do that. And that will make it nice and small and easy to understand. You can see right there, nice and easy. Or we can hit enter if we really want it to be even fancier. And there you go. So that's kind of like a shorthanded way of doing something that small, if that makes sense. So it's super useful. And then we need to get if there's any additional libraries that this Android plugin needs. So we'll say public override underscore get Android libraries, like that. And that's going to tell it to return a base string. Now, since this is going to be the exact same thing, we'll just basically go like this, tab equal pointer, just like we did before. And then we'll basically say debug question mark new string array, like that. And then we'll just pass in if there's any additional libraries that are associated with this. So in our case, we're going to do our plugin location. So if we take a look at our add-ons here, you'll see that we have hello world and then this. So we'll say hello world / app underscore debug.aar. Else we'll go ahead and just return the same thing. If you have a release AAR file, that's where you would put this. So you'd say app release AAR or whatever the name is of your plugin. And now we need to do the same thing, but for dependencies. So public override get Android dependencies, like that. And then we can basically just return the exact same thing. So we'll just grab this, copy it, paste it like that. And then we don't have any dependencies, so we'll just empty it out because there's no reason to return anything if it doesn't have anything. So there's no sense in even really having it technically. But just in case you guys need your dependencies, there you go. And then finally, we need to have one more, which is a public override get name, like that, which we need to return our name. In our case, we'll just go ahead and get rid of these guys, equal to pointer, and we'll return the plugin name, like that. And there we go. And that's basically everything we need to do right here for our plugin. And now from here, we need to actually initialize and load that plugin. So we'll come up here and we'll say export. And we'll need to load that plugin into memory. Now we need to house that plugin for a long time in memory. So we'll say public Android export Android plugin, like that, plugin. And we'll come down here and we'll say plugin is equal to Android plugin.new, new Android plugin, like that. And then we'll say add export plugin and we'll pass in our plugin, like that. And then on exit, we need to do the same thing, but the opposite. So basically, we just need to do remove export plugin and pass in our plugin. And then set our plugin equal to null so that it just gets removed from memory. And that's basically all we need to do here. Now, at this point, we've more or less set up our plugin. Now we need to actually put our plugin in our Hello World location. So we'll right click, open in File Manager, and then we will grab our AAR file that we built out. We'll copy it and we'll paste. And there we go. And now we can go into our project settings. We can verify that this is turned on and we should be good to interact with that plugin. So now we're ready to actually hook up our plugin. So thankfully, it's relatively easy. First things first, we need to go to Project, Export, and add in Android as our export template. Now you'll see here, it says target platform requires EC2 ASTC texture compression. So let's go ahead and just fix that real quick. We will click use Gradle build and you will see that it says Android build template not installed in project, install from the project menu. So let's go do that. So we'll click close, we'll go to project, install Android build template and hit install. So now it's going to uncompress all those build sources. Now think of it kind of like this. Godot has a way of building your project and it's very specific on how it does it. But the Android build template allows you to customize that build process. It no longer does A, B, C. You can make it do A, B, C, and D. So it gives you a lot of flexibility and a lot of capability for your project. Now, there are some disadvantages, of course. If you have to customize your build template, you need to know what you're doing or your whole project might not build, and that could be a major problem. Now, once we have our build template installed, let's go ahead and actually set up our plugin to work. Like, let's interact with some of those functions. So let's click user interface. Let's right click on our control node, attach a script, and just call it scene manager, like that. And then we'll change this from GD script to C# since this is a C# tutorial. Now we're going to need a way to interact with this plugin. So let's go ahead and add in a button as well. So add in a child node. Let's add in a button like so. And then let's make it about yay big, give or take. So when we click this button, it's going to say hello world. So we'll say hello world. And what we'll do is we'll come up to node on button down. We'll double click on that, connect it to our control node, copy this and hit connect. And then we'll come in here and say public void on button down like that. And that's going to allow us to actually interact with our plugin. Now from here, let's go ahead and actually load in our plugin. Now in C#, it's a little bit different than what you would normally expect. First things first, we need to get our plugin into memory. So we'll come in here and we'll say var singleton is equal to engine.getSingleton, like that. And then we'll pass back our singleton. So we'll just say, I believe we called it hello world, if I remember correctly. And we'll want to double check to make sure that that actually exists. So we'll say if bracket engine dot has singleton bracket quote hello world, then go ahead and get that singleton. So we'll put our brackets like that and put them like that. And then in order to actually call our function, we need to go singleton.call and then quote and then the name of whatever it is we're calling, which in our case, if we take a look at our hello world, it's just called hello. So we'll copy that hello like that. and that will call our hello world. Now, obviously, we didn't hook it up to our button. We'll get to that in a second. But that's basically all we need to do to get our stuff to actually run. So let's go ahead and plug in our phone here, and let's see what it does. So if you haven't already ran through my Android export tutorial, you definitely should, because I talk about USB debugging. And USB debugging is big with this tutorial, so just make sure you check that out. Now, if you have USB debugging installed, all you need to do, or turned on, I should say, all you need to do is come in and click this little button right here. So we'll click this, we'll click Google Pixel 7, and we'll select our current scene. So we'll go ahead and save it, and you'll see in a second, it is going to export it out and load it up onto our project, providing that everything exports out properly. And that's where the scary part is most of the time it fails its first time. So we'll see how it goes. And you'll see it loaded, but I don't know if it actually worked. So let's go ahead and check out our command prompt here and see if it actually works. We'll do adb logcat-s Godot. Now let's take a look. So it looks like it loaded something, but it didn't really do much. So let's see if maybe we need to do a bit more debugging here. So let's take a look at this. If engine has singleton, hello world, get singleton, singleton call hello world, else let's go ahead and do gd dot print fail to load plugin, like that. And then we'll go ahead and retry this real quick. Let's see if that helps, because it looks like something somewhere is getting disconnected and we're going to need to hunt down what it is. And unfortunately, this happens a lot with plugins. So hopefully it at least loads the plugin. If it's failing to execute the plugin, then that's one thing. But if it's failing to load it, then we know that we have something weird set up within our setup here. So let's see what happens. So we didn't get anything on our hello world. So no pop-up. If we run this, fail to load plugin. So it's not even seeing our plugin. Okay, so we know where to go from here. So it's not actually seeing our plugin. So let's go ahead and take a look. So we have this set as hello world, hello world. We're calling hello, that's fine. If we take a look at our plugin.cfg, we're calling our script hello world cs. So that should work. Name is hello world. In hello world.cs, we have our editor plugin. We're calling our hello world /app debug AAR. And looking at our hello world.cs, we do have hello world app _ debug. I'm curious if that's correct. It's app -debug. So it might be that it's not including the AAR file. So let's try doing this -debug instead, and let's see if that fixes it. So we'll go ahead and run it on our phone real quick, and let's see what it does. All right, and it's up, and it looks like it didn't do anything. It looks like it still failed to load that plugin. So something somewhere is broken. I was hoping that it was that, because that's pretty simple to fix. But unfortunately, I don't think that that's going to be the driving factor here. So app -debug. Let's make sure that the titles are exact. So I'll copy this. Hello world, because we do have a hello world. So that's correct. And this is app -debug AAR. I think this is exactly the same. So I don't believe that this is actually the issue. The name is hello world. That's fine, because it is called hello world. I believe this should be fine. We're adding the plugin. That's fine. Let's take a look at our Android export. Our Android manifest looks correct to me. We look at our actual plugin here. Let's make sure that this is the same in our Android manifest. So paste, that's correct. So that looks right to me. Our RES is empty. A big problem that some people have ran into is that if that has information in it, it can cause problems. This is empty, so it's not. This looks fine. This also looks fine. Android library. Hello world. Hold on, this. If I paste this, this says something different. I think I may have missed one of these little guys here. It's supposed to be Android.Android plugin tutorial, not Android plugin tutorial. So maybe that might be our case. So let's go ahead and build this guy and let's let that build real quick. So it should be up to date as soon as I refresh. Yes, it is. So we'll copy this guy. We'll come back into here, paste, and replace it like that. Now let's go ahead and try rebuilding it. Let's see if that fixed it. So we're going to let it execute, and it still failed to load that plugin. So I'm going to need to dig into this a tiny bit and see why it's doing that. So I will be right back. Okay, so I think I figured it out. So basically, we need to have a tool in front of this class right here. And the reason why is because this bit of code inside of here is not executing, even if it's being referenced by this other class. It doesn't matter. Godot doesn't see it. So it was basically getting an error saying that this object didn't exist. So just know that if you have any classes, you will need tool in front of it for it to actually operate properly. So now if we go back here, and I actually created the plugin in GD script just to test to see if we had anything broken, which we didn't. So that's good news. But now that we have this, we can just click on this little guy, hit Google Pixel 7, and it should display Hello World, hopefully. And there you go. You can see it displayed Hello World. So it went out and actually came to our little plugin here. It went out to our little class here, and it ran the Hello World script right here. So it ran this little hello to run that little toast message right there. So now the question you might be asking is, okay, well, that's great, but what if I want to use it outside of this little bit of code right here? Well, that's actually relatively easy. If we hover over get singleton, providing that the C# stuff wants to work. So let's close this really quick and let's reopen it, because sometimes C# gets a little bit finicky with initializing its stuff. So now that it's initialized properly, and you will see that it says Godot object, because that's what it returns. Right here it says Godot object. So if we come in here, we could change this to Godot object, and you can see that it's still valid syntax. So that means that we can grab this, copy it, bring it up here, and say Godot object singleton, like that. And then we can get rid of this. And then we can cut this and bring it down here, and it should just work fine. So now if we go back to Godot, we hit play, remote debug, you'll see in a second that it's going to re-export our project, and you'll see that we are not getting a hello world just yet. But if we click on hello world, it now fires off that hello world. So that's basically what we need to do to interact with our plugin and have that plugin stay in memory, because no matter how many times I press this, hello world will show up. So that's really all we need to do. So now the question is, okay, so this is all great, but how do I actually return something? Well, that's not too bad. So if we come here, we could say public string hello, like this, and then we can have it return hello from plugin, like that. And now if we rebuild it, we bring up our two guys here. The Gradle build has finished. So if we refresh, you'll see here the timestamp has changed. We'll copy this, paste it in, replace the file and destination, and then we can come in and use the new return. So we can come in here and just go string return is equal to, and I guess you can't really use return, so we'll say R is equal to signal or singleton dot call, and then we'll say gd dot print, and we'll print R, like that. And for some reason, it once again lost our syntax highlighting. For some reason, it cannot see the Godot dependencies. So I'm not sure what's going on. I think we got an update recently that broke our C# compatibility with VS Code, but that's okay. So we'll go ahead and hit play and run that, and you'll see in a second it fails to build, so that's not good. So I assume that it's because this is a variant. So we'll say as string and see if that works. So we'll try compiling that real quick. Instead of doing a remote debug, let's just do a compile. It doesn't want us to do it via a boxing or unboxing conversion. So we'll come in here and cast it as a string directly. So we're going to force it into being a string. So let's try that and see if that will work now. You can see it's building through, so it looks like that might work. And if we go ahead and click on Hello World, you'll see it pops up. If we click on this guy and we run our logcat, you can see hello from plugin. So it is working, which is awesome. So that's good, right? That's a good sign. Our stuff is actually executing properly. So that's pretty much how you do a return. Now, something to keep in mind, objects are a bit more difficult than you would expect, because when they come back as an object, the object needs to be exactly the same. So if you have a more compound object, I would suggest changing it to JSON, converting it over, sending it across, and then reconverting it from JSON to an object, just because sometimes the boxing and unboxing conversion can be complicated. So I would suggest that you just do JSON when you want to pull anything from here and bring it into your C# code. Now you might be wondering, okay, but how do I do it the opposite way? How do I put stuff into our function? Well, very much the same way like this guy here. We can just type string s, and then I can change this to s like that. And then what we can do is we can come up to our Godot side. I'm going to click build on this so that way we can do that. We'll go to our C#, and then we'll just comma quote hello world from code. Or I guess from Godot. I think that would probably be better, right? So we can use hello world from Godot. We'll capitalize that H. There we go. And then we can open up our AAR file, our hello world. I will copy this guy. I will paste it like that. And then let's go ahead and test it. So that way we can verify that it works. So I'm going to click on Godot. I'm going to click on here and run that boy on my Google Pixel 7. And now we'll click hello world, and you'll see hello world from Godot. Awesome. So that's basically how we can make a round trip function within our Godot project. So now the question is, okay, so we got that, but how do we do signals, right? Signals are huge inside of Godot. It's one of the big driving factors of the game engine itself. So how do we actually interact with signals? Well, thankfully, that's relatively simple. All we have to do is we can come in here and we can create a function public get plugin signals like that. And you'll see it's going to come up like this. And then what we can do is we can create a signal set. So we can actually go set bracket signal info. Info is equal to a new array set like that. And then we can come in here and just add to it. So info dot add, and we can add in a new signal info like so. And we'll basically pass in quote, and then we come up with a name. So in our case, let's just call it, I don't know, test signal, right? And then we can come in here and actually pass back information. So we'll say comma, and let's pass back a string dot class like that. And then we need to go ahead and return that information. So instead of return super, we'll just return our info like that, which is our array of signals. And then if we want to emit that signal, we can come in here and we can basically just fire it off. So we'll say emit signal, and then we just pass in the name of the signal. So in our case, the name is going to be test signal, and we'll pass in some kind of string value. So we'll say string from signal like that. And then we can head back to Godot and we can go ahead and hook that up. So it's actually relatively easy to hook up. All we have to do is type signal or singleton dot connect, and then we come up with the name of that signal. So if you remember, our name was test signal. So we'll grab that test signal, and then we have to connect it to a function. So we'll hit comma, and the connection needs to be a callable. So we'll say new callable, and then we can pass in an object. So this is what we're calling. So this comma, and then the name of the function we're calling. So the function I'm going to call is called test signal function like that. And then we'll put in that semicolon. And again, for some reason, C# has gotten broken with Godot. I'm not sure what's going on here, but that's okay. We'll make it work. So we'll say public void I believe we called it test signal function. So we'll copy and paste that. We will pass in a string h, and that will be our passed in string. So we could do gd.print h like that. And now in theory, this should just work. So let's go ahead and hit play. Let's run through the build process. And actually it's not going to work because I don't think I built it on my end. So let's do a build like this. Let's pass that AAR file across again. So we'll copy, paste, and replace file and destination. And then I'm going to go ahead and rebuild it. So click that, click build, and let's go ahead and try that again because it's probably just bricked out on us, would be my guess. If I run this logcat, there it is. In object type JNI singleton, attempted to connect to a non-existent signal. That's because the signal doesn't exist yet because we didn't copy it over. So that's what that error actually means. So now that it's copied over, you'll see if I hit hello world, it'll say hello from Godot, hello from plugin because of our return, and then string from signal, which was the information that we passed back right here. And that's basically how you do plugins for Android with Godot. So we basically went through how to set it all up, how to hook it up, and how to build it. And we went through the process of talking about how to get data back, how to put data in to another function. We also talked about how to do signals as well. So if you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. Hey, if you dislike this video, go ahead and hit that dislike button because I'm here to make content for you guys. This video was a viewer suggested video. So if you have any suggestions, please leave it in the comments below. Jump on my GitHub, links in the description, and you can go ahead and throw in a ticket. All of my tutorials are viewer suggestions. So if you don't suggest stuff doesn't get made. Now, granted, I have quite a large list, but that doesn't mean that I can't just continue to add to it. And hey, if you have any questions or comments about this, leave them in the comments below or jump on my Discord. Link is in the description, and anybody there will be more than happy to help you out. But that is all I have for you guys today. So thank you so much again for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Thanks.